I'm 83 years old. My name is Laura Grace. When Vincent died 15 years ago, people kept telling me I'd need help. They said I should move closer to my children, that a woman my age shouldn't be living alone in this house. But here's what nobody tells you about getting older, and I need you to hear this because it might save you years of heartbreak and dependence. The most reliable support you'll have after 60 doesn't come from your family. It doesn't come from your friends. And it definitely doesn't come from expecting the world to take care of you. It comes from 5 things only you can build for yourself. I know that sounds harsh, maybe even cruel. But I've watched too many people my age become dependent, become burdens, become smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. And I've also watched a few others stay whole, stay themselves, stay free. The difference wasn't luck. It was these 5 things. And I'm going to tell you about each one because I learned them the hard way, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes I almost made. The first thing is your body, your ability to move. Let me explain. I learned this when I was 75, about 8 years after Vincent passed. I woke up one morning and couldn't get out of bed without gripping the nightstand. My knees wouldn't straighten. My back felt like it had locked overnight. I sat on the edge of the bed shaking, thinking, this is it. This is how it starts. This is how I lose everything. I thought about a woman I knew from church, Mrs. Patterson. She was 72 when she stopped being able to climb stairs. Within a year, she'd moved in with her daughter in Ohio. Within 2 years, she barely left her room. She didn't lose her mind. She lost her legs. And when you lose your legs, you lose your choices. You lose your independence. You lose the ability to say no when someone tells you what to do. That morning, sitting on my bed, terrified, feeling my body betray me, I made a decision. I started walking every single day, even when it hurt, even when I didn't want to. Even when it was cold or raining or I was tired. Just 30 minutes around the block. Nothing fancy. No gym membership. No expensive equipment. Just me and the sidewalk. And I stretched. Not the way I used to when I was younger. Those big twisting stretches that made everything worse. Just gentle movements. Circles with my ankles. Lifting my knees while sitting in a chair. Rolling my shoulders, small things, but every single day. Honestly, some mornings I didn't want to do it. Some mornings I thought, what's the point? I'm old. My body's falling apart anyway. But then I'd remember Mrs. Patterson. I'd remember what happens when you stop. Now at 83, I can still get out of bed without help. I can still walk to the corner store. I can still carry my own groceries, and that means I don't have to ask. I don't have to wait. I don't have to depend on my children to bring me things when they have time. I have a friend, Eleanor. She's 79. She stopped moving about 5 years ago. Just stopped. She said her knees hurt, so she sat more, and the more she sat, the worse they got. And the worse they got, the more she sat. Now she can't walk to her own mailbox without someone holding her arm. She calls me sometimes, and I can hear it in her voice. She's a prisoner in her own body. And when you're a prisoner in your body, you're a prisoner everywhere. So that's the first thing, your body, your ability to move. You have to protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. The second thing is learning to need less. And look, I used to think security meant having more money saved, more things, more comfort. But I was wrong. Security means needing less. I learned this when I was 68, about 2 years after Vincent died. I was sitting at the kitchen table one night looking at bills. The house was too big. The heating cost too much. The property taxes kept going up. I was spending money just to maintain a life I didn't even want anymore. 4 bedrooms for one person. A yard I couldn't keep up with. Rooms I never entered. I thought about a man who lived 2 streets over, Mr. Hartley. He'd worked his whole life, saved well, retired with a good pension, but he'd built a life that cost too much to maintain. Big house, 2 cars, expensive habits. By 74, his savings were running out faster than he'd planned. He started depending on his son for money, and every time he had to ask, I could see a little bit of him disappear. The shame of it, the loss of dignity. I didn't want that. So I sold the house Vincent and I raised our 5 children in. I bought this small place, 1 floor, low maintenance, paid in full. I got rid of the second car. I learned to cook simple meals instead of eating out. I stopped buying things I didn't need just because I was used to having them. And something strange happened. I felt richer, not because I had more money, because I needed less of it. When you need less, nobody has power over you. You don't have to ask your children for help. You don't have to make compromises you don't want to make. You don't have to smile and say thank you when you really want to say no. My friend Dorothy is 81. She still lives in her big house. She can barely afford it, but she won't downsize because she's afraid of what people will think. So she struggles, and she asks her kids for money. And every time she asks, the resentment grows on both sides. She has more than I do, but I'm freer than she'll ever be. And here's the thing, freedom in old age doesn't come from having everything you want. It comes from not needing what you don't have. The third thing is your health. Not luck, habits. I wish someone had told me this when I was younger, but I'm telling you now. After 60, your body doesn't give you second chances. I watched my brother Tom ignore every sign his body sent him. He smoked, he drank, he ate whatever he wanted. He never went to the doctor. I feel fine, he'd say. I'm tough. At 71, his body sent the bill. Diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure. Suddenly, he was taking 8 medications, going to doctors every week, living in fear of the next attack. He didn't die, but he stopped living. He became a manager of his own decline. That's all. Pill schedules, dietary restrictions, constant fear. I started different when I turned 70. I began walking every morning. I started eating real food instead of whatever was convenient. I drank water. I slept 8 hours. I went to the doctor every year whether I felt sick or not. Not because I enjoyed it, because I knew what happened if I didn't. Now at 83, I don't take any daily medications. My blood pressure is normal. My heart is strong. I'm not special. I just did small things consistently for years. And because of that, I don't need help managing my health. I don't need someone to remind me to take pills. I don't need someone to drive me to endless appointments. I'm free because my body still works. And what I didn't understand back then, when I was younger, was that every choice you make with your body is either an investment or a debt. You're either building strength or borrowing against your future. And the bill always comes due. That's the third thing, your health. You have to earn it every single day, or you'll spend your last years paying for the neglect. The fourth thing is your ability to handle loss without falling apart. Pay attention to this detail because it's going to matter later. This one nobody talks about, but it's the most important because after 60, you're going to lose things, people, abilities, the life you had. The question isn't whether you'll face loss. The question is, can you survive it without becoming someone who needs to be carried? I learned this when Vincent died. I was 66. We'd been married for 46 years, and when he was gone, I felt like half of myself had disappeared. I knew two paths in front of me. I could collapse. I could let the grief consume me. I could become a woman who needed her children to visit constantly, to fill the emptiness, to give me a reason to get out of bed. Or I could grieve and keep walking. I chose to keep walking. I let myself cry. I let myself miss him. But I didn't let the missing become my whole identity. I kept my routines. I kept my walks. I kept showing up to my own life. And slowly I built something new. Not better, not the same, just new. I had a friend, Virginia. She lost her husband around the same time I lost Vincent, but she made a different choice. She stopped doing anything she used to do with him. She stopped going to church. She stopped seeing friends. She sat in her house and waited for her children to come fill the void. And they tried, but they couldn't. Nobody could. Now, at 80, Virginia lives in a kind of permanent suspension, waiting, needing, bitter that nobody can fix what's broken. The difference between us wasn't that I loved Vincent less. It's that I didn't expect anyone else to carry my grief for me. Resilience isn't about being strong. It's about being able to get up after you fall, again and again. And if you can't do that, you'll be dependent on others to lift you forever. And honestly, that's not fair to them, and it's not dignified for you. The fifth thing is knowing who you are and refusing to give that up. This is the hardest one, and the one nobody teaches you, because after 60, people will start making decisions for you if you let them. Your children will tell you what's safe. Doctors will talk over you like you're not there. Society will assume you're incapable just because you're old. And if you don't know who you are, what you stand for, what matters to you, what you will and won't accept, you'll disappear. I watched this happen to a woman I knew named Helen. Her children convinced her to stop driving. Then they convinced her to move closer to them. Then they convinced her to give up activities they thought were too risky. At 77, Helen doesn't live her own life anymore. She lives the life her children think she should live. And the bitterness is eating her alive. I see her sometimes at the grocery store, and she looks at me like I'm the lucky one. But it wasn't luck. It was choice. I made a different choice. When my daughter Sarah suggested I move into assisted living just to be safe, I said no, not angrily, not rudely, just clearly. I said, I appreciate your concern, but while I can take care of myself, I'm staying in my own home. If that changes, we'll talk. But that time isn't now. She pushed. She used worry. She used guilt. She told me I was being stubborn. She told me I was making things harder for everyone. But I knew who I was, and I knew what mattered to me. Independence, my own space, my own choices. I'm 83 now, still in my house, still making my own decisions. Not because I'm stubborn, because I know what I'm willing to give up and what I'm not. And if you don't know that about yourself, other people will decide for you, and you'll spend your last years living someone else's idea of what's best. And let me tell you something, that kind of life isn't worth living. So those are the 5 things: your body, your ability to need less, your health, your resilience, your sense of self. Nobody can build these for you, and nobody can take them away once you have them. I'm not saying your family doesn't love you. I'm saying love isn't enough. You have to be able to stand on your own, or you'll spend your last years leaning on people who have their own lives to live. And that's not fair to them. and it's not dignified for you. I need you to understand something before I continue. I didn't always know this. I spent the first few years after Vincent died calling my children too much, asking for things I could have done myself, making myself small and needy because I thought that's what widows did. And it nearly destroyed my relationship with all 5 of them. It wasn't until I stopped, until I built these 5 things for myself, that we could actually love each other again. Because love can't survive dependence, not real love. If you're 60, 70, even 80, it's not too late. But you have to start now. Start moving your body. Start simplifying your life. Start taking care of your health. Start building your emotional strength. Start knowing what you stand for. Because I promise you this, at 85, you won't regret being disciplined. You'll only regret waiting. One of my children called me last week. They said people are watching these videos and it's embarrassing, that I shouldn't be talking about family things in public. I told them, maybe someone needs to hear it. Maybe someone out there is sitting in their house right now, thinking they're the only one who feels invisible, who feels forgotten, who's terrified of losing their independence. And maybe hearing my story will help them stay in their own home, stay themselves, stay free. If this resonated with you, leave me a comment. I read every single one. Tell me which of these 5 things you're working on. Tell me what scares you most about getting older. Tell me if you felt what I've felt, because we're in this together, and nobody else is going to talk about it honestly. Subscribe if you want to keep talking. Every week I sit down at this table and I tell you the truth, because someone has to. Until then, take care of yourself, whatever that means to you.